The Meg was really, really dull. Like, some exciting stuff happens in it, but just overall, the movie was pretty dull, kind of uninspired. The plot like makes sense, but it also doesn't when you really look at it. There's no sense of tension in the movie. It just goes from plot point to plot point to plot point. There's not really a build to anything. Uh, None of the characters, like the actors, don't do a very good job in this movie. Like Jason Statham's the only one who kind of does a decent job. I did like Radon too, the guy from Blue Mountain State. He was okay. Uh, the woman who played the lead, the daughter of the man who ran the whole sea operation, she was dull. I was kind of wondering, like, hey, all these movies are getting reboots and it's cool and they're bringing old franchises back. And I was kind of hoping for like a new Jaws. And I think they could still do it. And I thought this might tide me over until then. And it really just, it doesn't. The shark in Jaws is almost more terrifying than the shark in this movie. And even the characters don't react to this shark with the same fear as they kind of do in Jaws. Basic story is about a diver who saw a giant shark once and no one believes him, so they brand him as crazy. But then guess what? There is a giant shark, and then they need to go talk to that guy again to take out the giant shark or something. That's at its most basic. At its most complex, it's pretty much the same thing, but with a bunch of other convoluted stuff that ends up not mattering at all. This movie is kind of like a bad combination of Jaws and Deep Blue Sea. And Deep Blue Sea is not a great movie. I guess this is based off a book. I was reading a little bit about the book. And the book's a little more interesting. Seems. Had a whole bunch of sequels. There's a lot of recognizable faces in this movie. You got Jason Statham. Then you got Hero from Heroes. Radon from Blue Mountain State. Dwight from The Office. That one guy who's on Fear the Walking Dead. Ruby Rose does a pretty good job in it. I think that's her name. And those guys all do fine, but that's it. They're just fine. It seems like something kind of tense happens in the movie, then nothing happens, and the people stand around talking about what had happened, and they don't seem to care that much about what has happened. Like, sometimes they do, but sometimes they're just like, it's almost like board meetings after, but it's like, I don't know, like they're dealing with numbers on a page or something. The structure of the movie doesn't really make much sense either. Like, there's a problem at the beginning, the problem gets solved, then there's another problem, and then they think the problem's solved, and then it's not solved, then they try to solve the problem, and then I guess it's solved. Maybe. The shark itself is like large, but I feel like they could have made it larger for the movie. I just didn't like it. I don't have that much like to say about the movie without spoiling it. There's no character development really at all, other than we didn't used to like this person, but now we think that person's okay. And like with Jason Statham, like they pretend to have an arc for him where, because he makes a decision at the beginning of the movie, and then like I guess that decision's important, but it was the right decision, and then he continues to make, I guess, the right decisions throughout the movie. So I don't. It's just the other people around him don't realize they're the right decisions. Looks nice. All the underwater shots were pretty cool. The sea lab that they all work in, it's cool enough. I think one of the biggest issues with the movie is that it's PG-13, and that might be for like the language and maybe seeing Jason Statham with the shirt off, because the violence, it's not that violent of a movie. You got this giant man-eating shark, and when it eats people, it just kind of eats them. There's no chomping. There's not really, like, if you've seen Jaws, that movie was rated PG, so it wasn't gruesome enough to get the R rating. PG-13 wasn't really a thing, but that movie had some gruesome scenes. When you see Quint getting eaten in it, and he's getting chomped on and slowly devoured by the shark, his blood's coming out of his mouth, or when like the people are swimming in the water and they get attacked, and then the water's just filled with blood. And it's none of that really in this movie, at least none that stands out. The Meg was meh. Just one letter different in the alphabet. The meh. It was actually probably less than meh. There's just nothing substantial to it. Nothing exciting. Meh.